Thank you, Taunya. I appreciate that. But as I listened to Taunya give that introduction, it made me wonder if I actually sleep at nights. And like so many of you in the room, so many women, we wear so many hats, right? We are, we walk through a room, we are parents, we are wives, spouses, we are, friends, we are neighbors, we do so much. And then we have our academic research and innovation to take care of. So thank you so much, Taunya, and I appreciate that really, really well put together introduction. Greetings to all of you. As I look around this room, I see beauty, I see innovators, I see promise, I see hope, I see impact, I see opportunity, I see success, I see you, and most of all, I see women pushing the boundaries of science, innovation, and the promise of a better world. What better way to celebrate you than through this occasion on this month, Women's History Month. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. You are the promise and hope of societal impact through your innovations and perseverance in an academic environment and a world that is ever changing. I am excited about this moment, a moment that provides me the opportunity to celebrate you. Yes, you. This is your day. Today's theme, empowering women, leveraging tech transfer and entrepreneurial resources for innovation and commercialization, is very timely. As the University of Kentucky promotes, encourages, supports, and empowers more women to engage in innovation, it is also advocates for a more inclusive and collaborative environment that advances innovation for a better world. The UKWIN Innovate team, led by Ian McClure and Taunya Phillips, have spent the last several years designing and seeking tech transfer and entrepreneurial resources that support faculty and student innovation and commercialization. Resources such as the NSF I-Core program, NIH REACH, NIGMS IRED program, and initiatives such as Launch Blue are resources that many of you may have heard about or have benefited from. And there are still more resources being developed in partnership with federal agencies, industry partners, and institutional collaborators. We are in a unique time in our country's history. The CHIPS and Science Act has allowed for federal agencies to create programs to help increase America's global innovation competitiveness. Your team here at the University of Kentucky are working tirelessly to ensure those programs and resources are available to you to help you maximize your innovation and commercialization impact. Over 12 years ago, when I was first thrown into tech transfer, I had no clue where to begin and how to make an impact. I must thank my colleagues, like those here in the room, whom I now consider friends, for their gracious support and encouragement along the way. The level of engagement, mentoring, and support that I received from them helped me to build my expertise, networks, and the necessary toolkits to help me hit the ground running. They not only recognize my desire and motivation, but also actively to work to remove potential barriers that allowed for my transition into the field. What I found most in my journey is that I needed to understand my why. Why was I here? Why was I given this opportunity? Why was this important? And most of all, why me? I never doubted for a moment that I could rise to the challenge. I just wanted to understand my purpose and how I could make a difference. Because I always thought if I'm going to spend time away from my family, if I'm going to work overnight, then I need to know that I was making an impact. So I wanted to understand my purpose and how I would make a difference. I found my why when I considered my mother, a single parent of 7 children, whose creativity elevated our family, whose entrepreneurial mindset allowed us to never go hungry, whose innovative nature allowed her to design and make clothes, upholstery, and more. I considered that if my mother, who never was given the resources that we have today could be so entrepreneurial and innovative that we could have that, and that anyone in this room and out of this room could be innovative and creative. Thus began my efforts to broaden the participation of underrepresented minorities in STEM innovation and entrepreneurship, which creating opportunities for students and faculty to benefit from the available resources and providing opportunities for them to engage in innovation and commercialization. And I want to thank all of you in the room who participated in my interview sessions today, which is a part of that program to raise the awareness of women in innovation and entrepreneurship. So I give you a round of applause. I had a wonderful time with all of you today. And so when I look at around the room and what I've done and the things that you're going to do, it makes my heart warm, because all of us in every day, in everything we do, will make an impact. So with the support from the University of Kentucky and Accelerate Health, I was able to create Enrich, a program designed to engage researchers and innovators in commercialization at HBCUs. That program went on to be recognized nationally, and I could not have done it without the support of the team in this room, Ian McClure, and again, Taunya Phillips. So thank you so much. So I know what you have here. I know what you have available to you. So you do not have to invent the wheel. Just make iterations. People often say that we should think outside the box, but I challenge you to throw away the box and just continue to ideate, innovate, and make an impact. Tech transfer cannot stand alone. What we do depends heavily on the work, creativity, and innovation of people like you. However, leverage the tech transfer operations, the tools and resources to elevate your innovation and commercialization activities. Engage in entrepreneurial training. Understand your customer, your value proposition, and your market. And funding. We all need funding. So understand how to get those follow-on funding and how to access them, but utilize the resources that you currently have here at the University of Kentucky. And I pause to say that many of us at our institutions look at the model that is created here at the University of Kentucky, such as your social entrepreneurship program, Launch Blue, and we try to elevate our programs using that model. So you have it here. You are the standard here at the University of Kentucky. So the more you learn, the more prepared you'll be for opportunity and growth. And always remember, you can be the change that you want to see. And I have that pin on today. With the current global perspective and challenges, we need as many innovators working towards societal and economic impact. We need diverse perspectives engaging in the ecosystem, and we need collaborators who can amplify our impact. We cannot solve the world challenges without you, without the collective efforts of everyone in this room, without the collective efforts of professionals in tech transfer, as educators, as research administrators, industry partners, governmental champions, students, researchers, partners, innovators, whatever you are in this room, we need you. Yes, even our patent attorneys. You are the people that would help drive innovation that will impact our world, making a better place to live, learn, and grow. The resources available and those that are being created, and trust me, there are a lot of resources being created that are designed to strengthen your ability to rapidly adjust and adapt, learn, create, and innovate through the development of a zeal of knowledge and innate curiosity that drives innovation and commercialization that will have global impact. There may be challenges, but be resilient in your pursuit of excellence. Your desire to make an impact that will change the world, one innovation at a time. You are discoverers, scientists, educators, innovators, inventors, and boundary pushers, pushing beyond the obvious to the non-obvious, finding usefulness unimaginable and novel. Keep exploring, keep innovating, keep learning, keep pushing the boundaries, and with all you do, keep nourishing your bodies and your minds. Take care of you. I wish you much success as you continue your journey of discoveries and societal impact. as you solidify your place in academic entrepreneurship and commercialization, and as you continue to embrace who you are and the role you play every day, multifaceted and often complicated, but ever so rewarding. The future demands people who are agile, flexible, innovative, and always willing to learn and adapt. Seek out those mentors, resources, and opportunities that you need. Embrace the challenges, celebrate the successes, and know that you can always win. Thank you for having me, and enjoy the rest of your great event. Thank you.
That's not a commercial for our office. Thank you, Almesha. Does anybody have any questions? We're going to have Q&A now. So if anybody wants to ask Dr. Campbell any questions, do you have any?
I'm happy to answer anything, even if it's about Ian McClure. Yes, thank you.
You've recently completed a term as chair of the board of Autumn. I was wondering if you would share, maybe you've recently completed a term as the chair of the board of Autumn, which is the Association of University and Technology Managers. I wonder if you'd be willing to share one or two of the top things that you learned about this industry that you think the women in this room could benefit from.
Thank you. That's an awesome question. I think one of the first thing, and I've always said this from the first time I started in Autumn some 15 years ago, that it's a profession that always have people who are willing to share. I would not be where I am today if there were not people who are part of that association that I can call upon and said, hey, I'm working on an MTA, which is a material transfer agreement. I'm having this issue with an industry partner or with another university. How do you handle these issues? And there's always someone somewhere, no matter the institution, no matter how large, no matter how small, that are willing to answer those questions. I think those resources that are there are the most valuable things that I've been able to take from Autumn. And I would encourage anyone in this room to be a member of that association. There are toolkits that are there available to you. There's also message boards that people chat. You can just ask a random question and somebody will answer you. And I think that's one of the best things that I've been able to take away from that association, which is different to a lot of associations that I'm a part of. And I think the second thing is that we're willing to learn. We not only educate others that are new to the profession, but each of us are willing to learn. We're willing to adapt. I went through a year's chair where I had to change the trajectory of the association in terms of making sure it was more inclusive, make sure people, no matter where they're from, no matter what they look like, no matter their orientation, that they felt a sense of belonging when they walked through our association, whether it be at a webinar, whether it be at our national meeting, that they felt like they belong in that place. And I think those are two things I would say, great takeaways from Autumn. Thank you so much.
I was wondering if you could share what program that you did here at UK and how long you were in the program, and are you still connected there? That's documentary.
Thank you. So 6 years ago, I received a call from Taunya Phillips right in the front. They were embarking on an application for the National Institute of General Medical Sciences called Accelerate Network. And they wanted to make sure that they were partnering with other institutions across the South. The Southeast, and Jackson State University was one of those institutions that they reached out to. And through that, I was able to get connected with Ian McClure and others here at the University of Kentucky and in the Kentucky region, actually. And throughout that, I began to learn different things because at my institution, which is a historically Black college and university, I was the only person in tech transfer. I just received 4 other persons like within the last 3 months. So it was one person working on tech transfer and commercialization and academic entrepreneurship for 15 years. So imagine that type of burden, imagine that type of thing that I had to recreate. But using the friendship that I was able to cultivate here in Kentucky, was able to take some of the lessons learned, was able to look at Ian as a mentor and be able to create that program that I mentioned about, which is engaging, not only did it for my university, but did it for other historically Black colleges and universities within the Southeast, and then developed that nationally. And that could not have been possible if I hadn't had that close connection with the people here at the University of Kentucky. Thank you. There's one in the back.
Oh, wait until she comes.
Okay, that's fine. Hi, Liz, and Liz in the back. Liz was very helpful as well. When I started Enrich, she was on every call with me, every session that we had. It was a virtual session when we first started, and she was there with me. And now she works in the office with Taunya, in the Office of Commercialization. So thank you, Liz, for all you've done to support that effort. Yes.
Great, thank you for your wonderful speech.
Thank you.
And in that, you brought up an interesting point about being resilient.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering if you could share what information you might go back and tell your younger self about innovation and commercialization that, in the face of challenges, helps you become more resilient.
Good question. My younger self, I'm still quite young, but no, I'm just joking. So one of the things I often say is, and I may not have said it in my speech, or maybe those of you who I interviewed today didn't know this, but I'm from the social sciences. So master's and undergrad in mass communication, marketing, and then my PhD in public policy and administration. But I've spent most of my career in STEM, innovation and entrepreneurship. I will tell my younger self, stay in those STEM classes, learn the science, because, and one of the people I interviewed talks so much about language, understanding the language and listening when a researcher is speaking. And that is something that was very difficult for me, because even though I had a technical writing background, understanding the science and how I can adapt it into everyday language for other people to consume was one of the difficult things. And when a researcher is passionate about their research and they're explaining it to you, hoping that you can help them, and you're just nodding, I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible, I don't understand a thing, you're no help for them. And it even complicates their path to success and innovation. And so if I go back to my younger self, yes, I will definitely say, the love that you had for STEM, for the STEM disciplines, to go ahead and do a course, or, even stay in an undergrad, that would help you. Because the tech transfer career is mainly people that came out of the STEM discipline. There's some of us, very few of us, from my field of social science. And so that would be the one thing I would say to my younger self. Also, maybe party a little bit more. Yeah. Yes. If I would say anything, I want to thank the men in the room. Can you give the men a round of applause? And the reason why I said this is because we also, throughout history, we won't be able to do anything alone. And sometimes we need, other people to support us, to encourage us, to mentor us, to stand in the gap for us. And so I really appreciate the men, even though we have a big signage about women, that the men are in the room supporting this today, because the work you do impact all of us. And like my speech said, everyone in this room will play a role in what we're trying to do and the impact we're trying to make, in not just in Kentucky, in the nation and globally.
Almesha, you're one of my favorite people in the world. I call you a rock star everywhere we go. One thing that has impressed me so much about you, as I have watched you develop and grow in your career over the past 8 years now, is that you've always remained true to who you are, right? As Taunya mentioned, your same kids' backgrounds, and you always apologize for nothing. You've run into every room full steam ahead and you made it through. So how have you done that? What's your, and maybe, have you seen challenges in doing that yourself as you have grown and developed and taken on new challenges? But just, I've always remarked to others that, Almesha will be Almesha. And that's admirable.
Yeah, I must thank the teachings of my grandmother. My grandmother always taught me that what other people think about me or feel about me is of no consequence to me. The only thing I'm responsible for is my reaction. And she also taught me that when I walk into a room, to always be my authentic self. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and neither are they my cup of tea. So just be who you are. And eventually the people who appreciate you, the people who you have like-mindedness with, will converge with you, and you will enjoy your time. The person is not in the room, and I don't want to call them out even if they're here, but one of the people I interviewed today, she said to me, she said, I always want to work with people that I like. And people that when I'm doing my job, it doesn't feel like a job. It feels like I'm having fun. It feels like it's, I'm having a good time. And that's me. I don't want to be in a situation where I walk into a room and everybody says, yes, yes, yes. I want people to challenge me. I want them to say, no, Almesha, this is not the way. It should be done this way. And for me to start thinking, because if everybody is yes, 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 then there's no growth for me. And so those are the things that I've taught. I really, thank my grandmother, long gone, but her teachings are still embedded in me because I teach the same things to my kids. I'm passionate about the work that I do because of the way I was raised. And I'm unapologetic about my mom having 7 kids and the challenges as a single mother that we've had to endure. And in order for me to survive and to thrive, not just survive, but thrive, is I had to be my authentic self in any room that I walk into. So thank you, Ian, for bringing that up. And yes, I love my Caribbean background. If you want autumn, you will see the stilt walkers, the Macajumbies, and you will see me in my outfit dancing to Caribbean music. So yes, I'm proud of my heritage. But I'm here in the United States of America, and I'm using every training that I have to impact the community that I currently work and live in. I think everybody's waiting to use the 2 tickets that are at the back of their name tags. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so I contacted you all about a few weeks ago asking you to be part of this panel. And I brought you all together because you all really embody what it is to be a woman innovator. And today is just supposed to be a conversation. We're going to talk about, your background and your innovations, but also that journey to commercialization and some of the things that you all have leveraged along the way. And, we've got some questions, but hopefully it turns into more of a conversation. So let's just start off with your background and your innovation.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us here. We appreciate being invited. I'm sure I speak on behalf of all of us in saying that. It's quite an honor. My name is Janine Barnett, and I work for the UK College of Nursing. I'm faculty there, but I've also I'm representing our Perinatal Research and Wellness Center research team. And most of the projects, programs, research that we've done over the years has been focused on tobacco cessation and prevention. We primarily work with women, helping them be healthy, and also pregnant women. And so in 2020, we worked with the Kentucky Opioid Response Effort, CORE, and with the help of a grant, we developed an online self-guided tobacco treatment program for perinatal providers. So that would be doctors, nurses, social workers, really any provider that was taking care of pregnant women and just helping to guide them in tobacco treatment. And then as an adjunct to that, we created a website called quitforus.com so that patients could get on there. So it was a personalized, interactive website that patients can use to help them on their journey to quit smoking. And so we expanded that to the state of Kentucky. I think we had 200 perinatal providers participate in our program. And afterwards, we were approached by a consultant in Tennessee, and they really loved our program, and they were implementing it, and they wanted to implement it with the Tennessee Department of Health with their perinatal providers. And so I think our journey might have been a little bit different than everyone else's because we already had our product and we were approached about using it and expanding it. And so that's what we did. We went through the whole process and commercialized our product. And to date, I think over the last year, it's been used with, I think we trained 225 providers in Tennessee, and that has led to them treating about 200 women and their partners for tobacco treatment. So that's
Awesome.
that's our journey.
That's impressive. I'm Angela Gutierrez, part of the Department of Civil Engineering. I'm a research engineer there. I'm also part of the Superfund Research Center, where we work on different interventions for emerging contaminants across the state. My specific path started when I was getting my PhD here at UK in chemical engineering. It was part of the outcomes of my PhD dissertation was looking at polymers for water treatment technologies. And then as a postdoc, I did some time to develop those into flocculant materials that could be used for treating wastewater and drinking water. And that's where I started working with OTC, looking at Kinetic, UXL, LaunchBlue. I think I've done every program that OTC has offered. And we then got a successful SBIR, a Small Business Innovation Research Grant from NIHS. Thank you.
Amazing.
So we're now working on our phase 2. So first it was the product of getting the product out and making sure that it was working, validating the technology. And now we just got awarded a phase 2. So we'll be working on taking the technology a step further and begin looking at commercialization for it.
Yeah. Impressive. I'm totally intimidated. I'm April Fernando. I'm an associate director at the Center for Innovation and Population Health. And I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and have been doing this work for about 9 years. And I'm going to describe it a little bit to you. So we have, our center provides public human service systems as well as organizations, a person-centered approach that that can help systems navigate change. And the approach is called Transformational Collaborative Outcomes Management. We call it TCOM for short. So when systems adopt this TCOM approach, they also adopt one of our tools. We have a suite of tools for children, adults, families, and crisis situations. And those tools take information that's gathered during an assessment process and helps to organize and prioritize the needs and strengths so that we can create plans that can help people transform their lives. Those plans are developed collaboratively because it's a person-centered, patient-centered approach, if you will. And when we aggregate the information from all those different people, we can then help systems change. And some of the ways that we can help systems change is through outcomes management, quality improvement. We can also help with resource realignment. So it's really trying to change systems to make them better using information about people rather than what we tend to use, which is information about what we do with people. This approach was developed from research as well as sound clinical practice, which continues to evolve the approach to date, which is why it's lovely to be here at the University of Kentucky so that we can continue to work on the research side of our approach as well. We died.
Yeah.
We turned to OTC to help us figure out how to scale up our approach so that we can help as many systems as possible. I'm going to turn this over to Michelle, who's going to talk about how we did that.
Hi, I'm Michelle Fernando, and we are sisters. We are not twins, but we have the same birthday. So think about that for a second. I'm the operations director for the Center for Innovation and Population Health. And the approach was originated by our director, Dr. Lyons. And I've been working with the TCOM group and Dr. Lyons since 2016. And when I started with him, I was a project assistant. I was, helping with figuring out what deliverables were happening and kind of getting projects together. And he got a group of us, we were 7 at the time, and we were sitting around a table and he was talking about how TCOM should grow, and he had all these big ideas. And he pointed to me and said, and I want you to run the business end of things. And I looked at him like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I have a master's in international affairs. I didn't get my MBA because I didn't want to take that finance class. Now I realize I should have taken the finance class, but that's okay. You learn as you go. I started to sit down with all of our PIs and our implementers, like April and other people on our team, and I just started asking them, well, what do you do? How long does it take? And what are we charging people? And I don't know if you've met Dr. Lyons at all. When he talks about his tool, he is ready to give it away for free. And one thing that I've learned since 2016 is that's great to give things away for free, but people don't end up valuing it. They kind of say, well, this was a free, so they don't take it in and they don't use it. It was a free thing and they walk away. Once we started valuing the people who are working on the implementations of the tool, people then started valuing our work. So that's where I came in. I started to put a value against the people who made the implementations and brought them to the different jurisdictions, and it started to scale from there. That's when I realized, oh, we can scale this because a lot of the things we do for each implementation, even though they're slightly different, they're the same. We teach them how to use the tool. We support them after teaching them. We train people locally, and we support those local trainers. And then there's the whole data side where, oh, we can help you with the outcomes reporting. And we can do this over and over again because the tool is scalable in itself. I just had to figure out how we value that scale and then scale it up. And coming to University of Kentucky has helped us really grow exponentially. I think coming in here, we had maybe on the OSPA side, $2 million worth of contracts. And now I'm looking at $22 million. So it's been crazy, the support we've received here at UK. And we've now taken a piece of that work through OTC, where we can scale this even more. And it's just been really helpful to have OTC supporting us. Serenity, I know you're in here. She's been really holding our hands and getting us through a lot of the hurdles here at UK. And I don't think we could have gotten here without her support. So it's really great to be here and to see all of these innovators and to see the support of all the women in the room.
Does it work? Oh, it works. All right, here we go. So perfect. Thank you all for your introductions. So I want to take that last piece, right? So you said, and for everyone that doesn't know this, TCOM was outside of the university. And so they took a different approach. And that's what we've been embracing in the office is these different approaches to commercialization, because we can't just commercialize everything in a normal box, right? So, you know, when we think about deep tech, it's pretty linear, right? So you get the patent, you go out, you develop it, you find the partners. But when you have systems and programs, it has to take a different approach. And so with TCOM specifically, it was outside of the university and then you brought it in. So how did you leverage OTC to kind of, use this as a support and then use us to scale?
Yeah, so I mean, we knew when we told people that we were moving from University of Chicago to University of Kentucky, we were ready for the clients we were already working with to be like, why? What's happening? But what we realized is they really believed in the approach. And after a few months, we were like, oh, they're all going to come. They didn't care where we were because they believed in TCOM. And they believed in our team. So we started to look around and say, okay, this is going to be a lot. And we need some kind of way to get these agreements in. And we just started looking around. And I think Dr. Lyons approached OTC and talked to Serenity. And we created a relationship and started talking about, well, what do you do? How does this work? And we put our heads together to figure something out. The way we're bringing these things in now is through license agreements, which totally makes sense because a lot of the previous agreements were similarly structured. So we went back to sponsors and like, sure, no problem. That's not a big deal for us. Some of the hurdles we're still facing are, the Commonwealth of Kentucky and all of those governing laws and issues, but we managed to work through them one by one. And that's relationship. That's relational. And everybody understands, we want to get this work done. We want to help the kids and families through these tools. So we're going to put our heads together and get the work done.
I could add one more thing. We forgot to tell you how scaled up we are. We're in 40 states, and we also have some implementations internationally that we don't work through the university, but that's how scaled up we are. And I think we scaled up even more when we came to UK.
Absolutely.
We were not in 40 states when we started here.
Wow, that's impressive. All right. So, Janine, so you all had a program as well, and you've worked with the state of Tennessee. What kind of challenges have you faced just getting KPAC out into the market and out in front of people in the community?
I think the initial thing for us was, since it started as a grant, we were so used to doing grants. And for any of you that work in research, it's like you apply for the grant, and then you get the grant, and you do the grant, and then you're hoping you get more money for the grant. And you just feel like you're in this constant cycle. And I feel like that was the beauty of doing it this way, because after the grant funding ended, we still thought we had something that was so important to share and that was beneficial to others. And so now we had an avenue of being able to still get it out there, even though we're not having all this grant funding that's going to end in a year or 2 years or 5 years or whatever it is. So, and you all baby stepped us through the whole thing. Really, Kendra and Serenity were just so instrumental in telling us, baby stepping us, like, okay, do this and do that. And so I think one barrier for us was just really having to go through the legal language, because our product was created through a grant, making sure. Unfortunately, our director at the time, our assistant director, she had the foresight to include in the contract that that property was ours after the grant ended, but just ensuring that there was that delineation between like what we did own after that grant ended, so that we could then commercialize on it afterwards. So I felt like that was kind of an initial barrier that gave us a bit of pause, but fortunately it was completely fine and it went through. And then we've really worked with great partners, and you all worked directly with those partners and communicated with them for us. And so that our partners in Tennessee even said, oh my gosh, your commercialization department, they're so wonderful to work with. When we were doing negotiations with contracts, again, they kept the things that they were supposed to keep private for each side, but and really just kind of brought it down, because our team, we do research, we're nurses, we work at bedsides and, things like that, but just helping us understand the process step by step. That was just huge for us.
I think that's one of the things that I hear a lot from researchers is that, you're stuck in this research, you're stuck in the grant, and it's a whole different world. And so when you think about commercialization, you have the legal language, you have the negotiations, you don't know what's up and down and sideways. And so, we really try to come alongside you all as partners to be a liaison and help communicate and use the language that you all would use, but then be able to translate between the two parties.
And I'll say I'm a huge proponent. So at the College of Nursing, no one really knows about it, but when we were in talks about other things, they're like, Janine and her team did this. So everyone's like, how do we get on board with that? And so everyone's probably going to be contacting, with all of their ideas to start commercializing from the College of Nursing, which is great. We love it.
It's perfect. All right. So Angela, you have deep tech, and, you are taking, a more traditional route, which is perfectly fine. And it makes sense for deep tech. So do you want to, because I know in your introduction, you spoke about participating in all of the programs that we have to offer. So how did participation and leveraging those programs help with your journey of commercialization?
So starting off with writing the first SBIR proposal that, of course, didn't get funded. It wasn't the first learning curves. You write so many proposals. I'm sure a lot of academics will understand. Very few get funded, but when they do, it's wonderful. That first one I was writing right out of my PhD, just first year as a postdoc. There was a lot of things that I didn't know in terms of how to structure grants for innovation for like SBIR versus an academic grant. Learning the UXL and LaunchBlue was so instrumental in doing the customer proposition, understanding how to reach out to customers, building that network beyond my academic network that I had, but going just calling people and asking, would you be interested in a product to help clean water that can do consume less water and produce the water to a higher quality? Oh yeah, of course. What, do you have a product? Not yet, but I just want to know if you'd be interested. Like, kind of getting out of your the individual researcher in a lab and getting that personal experience with customers, understanding what it is they want and what is it that I can offer to meet those expectations, so that when the product keeps moving forward, there are people that are going to be interested in commercializing it and taking it a step further. And it's not just something that it's always exciting to see the products move further, but my ultimate goal has always been to just be able to actually make it into a product that can be used eventually. So it's a long process. It's been since 2019 was the first grant that I submitted. 2020 it got accepted, and now we just got phase 2 accepted. So it's a long process, but it's worth it. And the amount of times I've emailed OTC, Taunya, so many times, and even kind of just like, so I need a little recommendation for tomorrow, ideally. Can I please get this? Just trying to jump on all the opportunities available, and then understanding thanks to UXL, going from each funding agency, how things change. DOD, DOE, so different to NIH, NSF, and then even just going to state Kentucky funding, completely different approach as well. So having people that have been through it, that understand it, and having everybody at OTC and the contacts that OTC would provide with other people that had participated in similar programs was game changer.
So speaking of customer discovery, so for the innovators in the room, and I've been on the research side, right? So I know what it's like to just put your head down, work at the bench, not talk to anybody. How was it with customer discovery? What was that process like? Were you nervous?
I was nervous at first because I was calling like, well, I don't have a product, so what am I gonna say? Like, if I'm gonna be calling consultant companies, usually what my thought was, they want something that's working so they can start offering it to their customers and being able to grow it right away. So it was getting out of my shell of like, well, I don't really have anything to offer right now. What am I doing? Am I wasting people's time? But then that's also how several relationships just started. And we have a consulting company that's been working with us since that phase 0, and they're still interested. They still keep exchanging. They become also a source for us to get access to different kinds of water samples that we wouldn't be able to get if we were just working independently. So it took me out of my comfort zone, and it was different to what I was used to doing, but it was, I feel like it's helped a lot, and it's also helped me be better at selling the product.
That's awesome. All right. Well, as we approach our question and answer session, we're going to open it up for the audience, but before we do that, what would be a piece of advice that you have for any aspiring female innovators who may, face this journey of commercialization?
I would say use your network. Biggest thing is like always just use your network. There's someone in your network that either has done something similar to what you're looking to do, or that knows someone that has done it. And those personal interactions it doesn't make the path seem as daunting. So lean on your network hard. Anybody else?
Sure. I would say just be proud of what you've created, and just know your worth and be excited about it, be creative, and be persistent.
I think it's really important to understand what your strengths are and your limitations are, and then find people to help you, round out the team. You can see my sister and I have worked together now in 2 jobs, and we are a team of sorts, and you can say what she talks about and what I talk about are very different. We have other people on our team as well, but when you know your strengths and limitations, then you can work your passion, right? You can stick in your lane and just go for it. And I think it makes the innovating much more natural, right? You can really push yourself when you feel like you've got solid ground underneath you.
And the other thing I've learned since coming here to UK is say out loud what you're going to do. Yeah. One of the things we were doing at U Chicago is we were kind of hiding ourselves and the tools. We are hiding it in other in other ways in other projects. It would kind of be an ancillary to a larger project. And when we came here, there was a clear decision made. We're going to be the TCOM team and we're going to say it out loud. And it opened up. So declare it, say it out loud. That's what you're going to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we will open it up for the audience to answer any questions.
Hi, I'm Yu Ha-jung. I'm a faculty member in College of Fine Arts. I'm in UXL program right now doing customer discovery. But speaking of that, getting it out there, make sure people know about it. But when you are working on a project, especially that can be patentable, you don't want to say it aloud. And also, if you're developing something, not that, I don't really believe in people stealing my ideas, but more working together. But at the same time, it's not cooked. You want to keep it kind of private. So how do you balance it? And when do you know when you want to, get it out there?
It's a good question.
It is. We've got out half-baked sometimes. Seriously.
Yeah, one of the nice things that our director really pushes is for us to, we talk about the group that works on this around the globe as collaborators. We're all collaborating together. We give things away, we share, it's always out there to share. There are some things we like to develop and cook a little bit more, as you say, before we share them. But what makes it uncomfortable for me is our director puts it out there a little bit too uncooked. But what happens is the collaboration starts to pick up and it becomes so much more rich and different than you ever thought it would be. Yeah. So I think you learn that over time. And depending on what it is you're trying to put out there, it's probably a little bit different. But I would always push yourself beyond where you're comfortable, but have someone to talk to about it.
Yes. I'll add to that just in terms of some of what I was doing was patentable technology. So we had already started the process of getting a patent, at least getting the application submitted. So that helped. And then when it came to talking to customers, switching it to what are your needs and what is out there that is not meeting your needs right now. And then that would feed back into what I was doing. Okay, so I don't know, maybe it turns out drinking water is, I'm exaggerating, it's fixed. We can do that. No. So thinking what specific industries had a concern right now. And we pivot and we started looking at wastewater treatment instead of drinking water, looking at specific industries that hadn't been side streams that weren't being officially regulated, but we knew we were coming based on upcoming legislation or based on the contaminants that were present. So kind of start looking, okay, if your needs are these, this is what's out there. What can I tell you so that you're interested in me coming back and talking to you later on, but then feed me all the information that you're wanting someone to address. And then that's what I would come back and take and incorporate into the grants.
I think our programming is a little bit different because it's not necessarily a product per se. And I think, we were just so excited about having this programming to begin with and developing it. And we wanted just everyone to know about it, before we even thought about the commercialization piece. So I think for us, that part kind of came a little bit later after we were like, we want everyone to know about it. And this is just another way for everyone to know about it. So I think we'll probably be a little bit later in the game on trying to figure out that balance.
We got you.
My name is Bahri Khalifa. I'm from Mechanical Aerospace Engineering. Just maybe a little bit corresponding with previous question. Just would like to ask you, I love my research, but I always unsatisfied. I always would like to make better and better. So what's your level of perfection? When you would be ready, to give it to humankind, something like that. Thank you.
That's a hard question. I don't know if I can say that. It's you have to find a compromise, being ready to meet at the point, for water, the regulations. So that was the driving forces. Would we always be able to go back and edit? Yes, that's the goal.
because we're looking right now, it's one application, it's a waste stream at specific industries. The thought is that then we can take that same core technology and what can we modify it or what can we add to it so that it's applicable to not just this one industry section, but to a lot of other applications, even just as, is it something that's applicable in the mining technology? Like, can we recover some rare earths from water using the same polymer core technology? So I do think that it maybe kind of changes the perspective. Is not when is it perfect for the one application, is what am I meeting what I propose to do? What were the outcomes of that grant? And then it doesn't stop there. You can then go and continue, get additional funding to improve it for specific applications and pivot also to find other areas where it can be applied.
So one of the things that our team struggled with before we came to UK was, are we developing a business or are we developing a field? And we made a decision, probably because we're a bunch of clinicians and researchers, that we were going to develop a field rather than a business, much to Michelle's chagrin. And and because of that, we see our tools, they're paper and pencil tools, our tools is ever evolving and needing to change. So when language changes, we have to update our tools to meet the language change, right? Like, for example, we no longer say self-mutilation, we say self-injurious behavior, as a small example. So we have to continually evolve and learn from all the implementations that came ahead. And that can be really disconcerting for systems who want truth. But at the same time, populations change, right? Like, we have just lived through before COVID and after COVID, and we're looking at our data now, before, after, at different time points, trying to understand the impact of COVID on how systems are functioning in child welfare, behavioral health, justice, and education. So I think it's about trying to live through that tension between business and, all of our souls are in research and in practice, and trying to live that in your truth, given what product you have, is, I think, part of the journey. And I think it's a fun part, as long as you're okay with the tension.
Sure. Yes, I agree with everything that you're saying. Just kind of leaving yourself open to be able to make modifications as it goes. In tobacco treatment, I think everyone is probably very aware that it's changed. The landscape has changed over the last 20 years, going from traditional cigarette use to e-cigarette use and all the new products that are popping onto the market all of the time. And so I think we've allowed ourselves in our programming to be able to evolve, with the science. And so, I think you have to be just a little bit flexible in developing your product and allowing for those changes to occur.
Thank you. Hi, Fernando Orban. I am Service Executive Director for Entrepreneurship and Innovation for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Way too long, so we call ourselves Team Kentucky. I'm so glad to be here today. Dr. Fernando, your last answer ties very well into this question. To ask people, because I love researchers, why Kentucky? And that could be why Kentucky, why University of Kentucky, when there being so many people that are considering the next step in their research career or innovation career. Can you talk a little bit about the benefits of where you select?
Sure. I'll try to channel our director, because he selected, I followed. And it sounds really fancy. We were at the University of Chicago, but we were not necessarily, we were an affiliated center. And we did not have the benefits of what we have in the center we have now, which is rooted in the university. So access to, research facilities, access to people, access to human resources that could really grow what it is that we were doing. Our precision analytics team has pushed our work so fast so far that we could have never done that where we were. And it's nothing to do with the University of Chicago. It had to do with how our center was affiliated and not really at the heart of the university.
Me personally, like I did my PhD here. I was working here, so it made sense to stay in Kentucky. But then looking beyond that, Kentucky has a lot of different socioeconomical backgrounds and different perspectives of people that live here and have experienced different things throughout their entire life. I would ask, why not Kentucky? There's a lot of stuff that we can be doing that makes a difference. Why take it away to go to a place where there's more funding, more industry? When I'm from Colombia. I moved here in 2012, and Kentucky is my home. Lexington is my home. So why would I take something that I think can be beneficial away from a place where I would want it to be able to make a difference? So that's why Kentucky. And then why UK? UK has so many beneficial programs to offer and a lot of different centers that are willing to collaborate and work with you. I'm part of the Superfund Research Center, and it ties together several different colleges across the university where I was able to just look at what are the different needs in the medical industry, what are the needs across Eastern Kentucky versus Western Kentucky, being able to understand the place you're in to be able to actually have an effect with the technology you're trying to develop.
Yes, I did my undergraduate and graduate degrees at the University of Kentucky. And then as being part of the College of Nursing, we just have a lot of researchers and staff that are really passionate about women's health. And so I was just really grateful and happy to be able to connect with them. And looking at tobacco use and prenatal tobacco use, unfortunately, Kentucky ranks first and second in the United States in tobacco use for just adults in general and women that are pregnant, which is not a high ranking that we want, unfortunately. So that naturally falls into our research goals of helping women to helping to reduce those rates.
So with that in mind, I'm going to go back to discovery interviews because we kind of started there, and I'm in the midst of the National I-Corps program. We just finished 101 discovery interviews in 3 weeks. So we've learned, yeah. I'll take the applause on that one. There we go. And from that process, there have been a lot of enlightening aspects. So what I wanted the panel to do is you each have talked about some very different programs and talked about commercialization through licenses, contracts, and actual tech. Could you explain your process for deciding what the right direction was specifically for you?
That's a great question. I think for our team, as I mentioned, ours started with a grant with the Kentucky Opioid Response Effort. And so our outreach was specifically to prenatal clinics across Kentucky. A lot of times those were through the Kentucky Department of Health. And then someone reached out to us to do that with the Tennessee Department of Health. So it was more of an easy fit versus us reaching out. But even when we had the initial core contract to get our product out to everyone, I felt like there were a lot of we were looking at any kind of prenatal clinics, health departments, OB hospitals. I mean, we really sent it to any kind of OB provider, OB education networks, the Nurses Association. We really just tried to do all kinds of outreach to get it wherever it can be, social workers. We just really crossed the gamut. So we were very particular in who we were targeting for that. And then again, the Tennessee Department of Health, they made it mandatory for all of their health clinics.
In my case, with it being a technology that we were developing in the lab, it just kind of made sense to follow a traditional path, get IP, then start looking at grants for funding to take it from the lab into the next stage and continue doing that until we get to a point where we can start looking at commercialization, which is where we hope to be in the next few years. And at that point, we'll start looking back at licensing, consulting, other things where we can make sure that the product gets to more people.
I think because Dr. Lyon's tools already existed previously, and the license agreement just seemed to be a natural fit. We just it took a while to figure out how we could get that here. It took a lot of Serenity's help and pushing to get that done for us. There is an entity called the Praed Foundation that holds the intellectual property, and that's where that agreement is between UK and the Praed Foundation. And we wanted to make sure that everything made sense and we got to a point where it made sense. So the license agreement was probably the easiest, even though it was difficult to do, it was still the easiest step for us.
I also hear a lot of conversations, right? And figuring out what's best for you, what's best for the technology. And so I know as an office, we always encourage close collaboration with our office and the innovators to figure out what's best for the technology. And so I think that's what I'm hearing a lot of you all say. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being part of this panel. It's been amazing, and I hope you all keep up the really good work.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.